Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships or at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And a special offer to ImmaLetYouFinish listeners, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/ImmaLetYou, ImmaLetYou. That's better, HELP.com/ImmaLetYou, ImmaLetYou. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
And that's our show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really. Thank you for playing the at-home version.
We'll see you next week.
Oh,
it's Court and Amy. It's I'ma Let You Finish. It's show number 118 on the Pantheon Podcast Network. It is us. We're actually taping this on Election Day. We've both already voted, so we have televisions off, and it's like I will tune in either late tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, when
but
it's done.
I'm not doing my usual where I used to sit and watch. I used to love
the hour by hour. I can't take it.
love
it's
it.
Too nerve-wracking.
But now, lately, just how ugly everything has gotten, it makes my nerves go really, really bad. So
I can't take it.
Can't do
So hopefully we'll be here next week to do another show in case it goes the wrong way and we're all arrested.
I mean, yeah.
Get your abortions done quickly.
I mean, or Elon Musk will come and ban you from his new free speech platform, Playground. It's like,
yeah.
Are we really? Do you ever think sometimes?
No, I never think. Wait, stop right there. Okay. Stop right there. Do I ever think sometimes? I'm sorry.
I feel like we have on those goggles that people wear when they're like, in the metaverse and stuff. And this is actually some
the
alternate...
virtual
reality.
Yeah,
we're in some situation.
Yeah. We're in an alternate reality.
We're going to take it off and be like, oh my God, how crazy was that ride? Wasn't that nuts?
Yeah. Has anyone checked his immigration status, by the way? I know he's not from here. Yeah. All right, let's start with something a little less cataclysmic. A little less cataclysmic. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony was held Saturday night in Los Angeles, and the show itself is going to air on the H, the B, and the O on the 19th.
I'm sure a very chopped down version. Evidently, the one that aired this weekend, the one that was live, was a 5.5 hour show.
5.5 hour.
And because everything gets ruined and sold to a corporation, we will get a chopped down hour and 44 minute version.
No. It's usually like a 3.5 hours. But I got to say, the one time I did go, I couldn't make it to the very end. I was just like, holy crap.
But you didn't make it to the jam session?
I don't need to hear Def Leppard jam. Are they a jam band? No, but I didn't. I heard Roxy music, and then it was like, and I heard part of Def Leppard, and then I was like, I live 10 minutes away, and I'm tired. I'm going home. But anyway, people performed, and everybody's like losing their shit because Rob Halford sang with Dolly Parton. It's like, okay, he's a gay white man. That makes perfect sense to me that he would sing with Dolly Parton.
I mean... Didn't everybody sing with Dolly Parton?
Everybody
Wasn't she
sang
the big
with
jam at the end?
Yeah, and I am officially calling for Brandi Carlile. She just needs to sit down for a minute.
Miss Thing, she's going to start... No, She's about to go to a graveyard and start digging up some of the people who are dead and just resurrecting everybody
But it's
because
just,
she
she's the
is.
go-to. She's the go-to now for every. I guess the big gossip was that Alanis Morissette was supposed to perform and bailed at the
Oh
last
yeah, she
minute.
now. Why did she bail? Come on, I know you know why she bail. She
I have
made
no.
some long. I saw some long situation that she tried to put out something about women and being respected and blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah.
whatever.
I'm like, oh, so you didn't know the song?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You have one album. Bye bye. And said I haven't talked to my people who are actually there, but word has it. No, from what I read, Eminem's speech was just fantastic, and he literally thanked every rapper in the world, which is perfect because today we have a fabulous guest, Jonathan Abrams, who has wrote The Come Up, an oral history of the rise of hip hop, and I think pretty much everyone Eminem thanked is in this book, and then some. So he literally thanked like everybody who's ever put a microphone, and which is good because I'll say
That's the
this about
moment, right?
Eminem.
When I think that is the moment when you're
That's a
really
moment.
achieving what is, considered by some
Yeah.
one of the highest honors you can get in your profession.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important if you have influences and people who helped you, it's the perfect moment to
Well,
actually
especially
give
him.
us
I mean,
that.
I will say this about Eminem. I didn't vote for him. We've talked about why I don't think he should have gone in first ballot, but he's always been very cognizant and very aware of who he is and why he is and the privilege he carries in the industry. And he's never tried to pretend that there isn't other things going on behind his success. But yeah, it's supposed to be, it should be good. And shockingly, Dave Grohl was there. He never does award shows. That's really interesting. That was sarcasm.
Janet was there. She looked amazing. She was serving very a throwback to Control. What have you done for me lately? Cover art, Janet, which
Oh
was
yeah, the hair, the
amazing.
big hair.
Love it.
All right. Well, one person who
And
did
your
not.
rhythmics.
Oh
And
yeah,
Pat.
your rhythmics. Oh
Pat
yeah,
and Neil. Thank you, Pat
they
and
looked.
Neil.
They looked amazing.
I mean, and then they performed. I watched online. I couldn't help it. I was like, I need to
All right.
watch your
No, of
Eurythmics
course you
online.
did. Of course you
And
did.
I was like, there's just nobody better than Annie. I mean, as soon as she came out, everybody just gave her a standing ovation. She's one of those people. I've met her. She's so nice, such a nice person, and she just has an energy around her where you're like, wow, you're kind of like Annie Lennox. That's really amazing.
And nobody cares about Alan Grubman. All right. That will go down. I'm sorry, in the history
I
of like,
mean,
no, that is just ridiculous. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean,
evidently, some people find it controversial.
yeah.
Or Sylvia Robinson, right? Like
But at
like
least she did something musical. I mean, she
yeah.
was in Mickey and Sylvia,
Mhm.
and she actually did something. Alan Grubman just wrote contracts. Sorry. I mean, really. I mean, he wrote very good contracts.
But wasn't he like everybody's lawyer for a
Yeah,
really
but
long
I mean, so
period of
are they?
time?
I mean, why don't they bring up the guy who defended like all the mob guys or something? Which is similar to being a musician's lawyer.
I was
is it
about to
not?
say that's actually the same as being in the music industry.
Yeah,
What are
bring
you
up
talking about?
all those guys when rappers get arrested and they have that same guy who was their lawyer.
Who
All
always
right,
who can get you out at 2:00, 3
2
a.m.,
o'clock.
5
Yeah,
a.m.
yeah, and they put the glasses on the rappers so that they don't look like a criminal. Okay, speaking of rappers that we cannot stand, we wish would go away, and we hate them so much, and they're horrible, horrible, horrible. All right. My issues with Drake have just always been, I think he's mediocre as an artist. I mean, the beats are great. He does some interesting stuff. We like that last house music record, which came and went in like, what, a minute and a half? It was like gone. But this week, Drake, in his never-ending need to create beef where there is none, or to quote someone on the interwebs, he doesn't create beef, he creates tilapia, went after Megan Thee Stallion yet again on the song Circo Loco, and the line that is drawing tremendous amount of condemnation is, "This bitch lie about getting shot, but she's still a stallion. She don't get the joke, but she's still smiling." And she just clapped back. So it's good to know that this woman has been shot, police reports, everyone believes her except for all the men in hip hop. And they're all lining up to defend, what is the guy's name? Trey Lorenz, Tory Lanez.
Tory
What's his name?
Lanez.
Who is he?
I believe he's a Canadian hip hop artist.
Oh, so that why Drake? It must be the international cabal of Canadian rappers.
Yes. He's a Canadian hip hop artist, and kids like him. He's put out a bunch of albums, a bunch of mixtapes, blah blah blah. My issue is, why is he always got? It's always like an attack on some woman. It's just weird. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe because he doesn't like women. I'm not saying he's gay. Maybe because, like a lot of men, he loves women, but he doesn't like them very much. You know what I mean? Like, you can love somebody, and he clearly has no respect for this. I mean, whatever you want to say about Megan Thee Stallion, you don't have to be a fan. The woman was shot. She was shot. And these guys are caping for somebody who shot an unarmed woman for no reason. And thank you, Drake, for being the class act that you are.
The thing that upsets me about this story, and I think I've said it to you before, is when people are like, she's a liar, that's not what she originally said, da 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 da. And I always think about how many times Black women always will lie to protect Black men and not have them get arrested on the spot and go to jail.
Right.
And the fact that everybody suddenly is trying to act like no, that wouldn't be a thing. It's like, yeah, that's absolutely a thing, because one, she wasn't the one who called the police. She's like, there's a gun. I don't want to say I've been shot. You know what I mean? All of those things that I know people understand.
Right.
But whenever there's a narrative, everyone just loves to jump on the narrative and let's just, oh yeah, you're a liar, she's this. It's like, I get really upset that when we watch Black women reach certain levels, that we seem to cannibalize our own. It's like, why are we attacking Megan Thee Stallion? Everybody loved her when she came out. Now she's a liar, and we don't like her because Drake said so. It's like, child, please. It's like, go back to Degrassi Junior High, the second version.
It's just so hateful. It's just it's mean, it's hateful. And the thing is, for no reason. This woman is literally sitting there, doing nothing, and you're running out of your way to create, to get clout. Ugh, I just hate him. All right. Let's talk about somebody else we hate. Who are we going to go? The white guy we hate or the Black guy we hate? Kyrie, we hate him.
Oh, God.
Listen, as Knick fans, we could not be happier. Keep it coming.
I'm just sitting back watching, like, what else can y'all put? Oh, anti-Semitism? You want to hire this coach? They're getting pushback on that now.
Good.
That's starting to be a little bit of a controversial idea, maybe to them.
You think?
Since it was to everyone else. It's like, hi. Yeah. I know who we need right now. You know who can save us?
The disgrace suspended coach from the Boston Celtics.
It's like, what?
Wait, can we find a coach who's exposed himself to his employees? Maybe?
I mean, it's like,
what's Isaiah Thomas doing? Where is Isaiah Thomas?
On TV. He's on TV.
Is he on TV?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he's on TV a lot.
It took me forever to figure out that the Isaiah Thomas who plays ball now is not
the same.
His son. It was not his son. I knew it wasn't the same guy. I'm not that much of a moron.
his son is a DJ. Isaiah Thomas, his son is a DJ.
Okay, but yeah. I was like, oh wow, Isaiah Thomas has a kid who looks nothing like him, but is a really good ball player. Yeah, so Kyrie, it's just, at this point, it's just so ridiculous. And the constant refusal to admit when you've done something wrong and apologize it and stop blaming everybody. And it's just like, oh my God, the Black Israelite, Hotepi, stop. It's just stop already.
I don't care what you think. You can feel whatever you want. This is America. Feel whatever you want. Why is it that you just seem to do everything but the thing that you're paid to do, which is play basketball? Like, feel whatever you want, but there's always something. No matter what team, there's always something. Well, maybe he will always find something to become a distraction for his team.
Well, they'll find out that maybe it's not worth it. Nike dropped them, so that's they're you take, not a good idea to attack Jews in the city where the biggest we like basketball, Kyrie. We enjoy the basketball, the Jews. I don't know why we like it so much, but we enjoy the basketball.
All right, well, let's bring in our guest.
Let's bring in our guest.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about him anymore.
We don't want to talk about. So I'm going to do this thing that I always do, where I hold up a book, even though nobody can see it. So I'm going to hold up the book as if we are on television. So, okay, so I am holding my book. This is a big ass book, Jonathan.
It is not for the faint of heart. How you doing, Courtney?
It is like something. So let me hype it, and then So it is called The Come Up, an oral history of the rise of hip hop. And by Jonathan Abrams, who is our guest. And this is wait a minute, you have to know how to read. This is 500 something pages. This is like some Jonathan Friesen level type of shit here.
Yeah, no lag, guys. Like, hip hop is such a big and expansive topic, and obviously not one book can cover it. But the first draft that I had turned into my editor was like 3 times as big as the final book. And that editor was like, hell nah. And I had to hire a freelance editor to help me like pare it down to something that was a little bit more manageable, because hip hop is a wildly expansive subject.
I know. And now I have 2 questions. Was this brought out to tie into the unofficial 50th anniversary of hip hop next year? Is there any connection-ish?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, is because I knew that we were coming up on the 50 years.
And the other thing is, as a writer myself, I'm like, how did you get all these people to talk, and who did your transcriptions for you? Because this must have been exhausting.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all know that rappers and hip hop artists don't really work 9 to 5s, right? And you sit there, and I sent out requests upon requests, and I can only imagine the thoughts that went through their head. Talk to them free for a book that's going to come out in 3 or 4 years for free for an hour. So you can imagine the success rate that had. But right. I figured that with my journalism background, I'd be able to get to a lot of people, and I'm really happy with the amount of people who I was able to talk to for this. And then, yeah, I had a transcript service. It was like $1 a minute or whatever.
That is like, so like, that was like my first thought. I'm like going, holy shit, did he have
No, that's what she said to me when she got the book. She was like, how did he transcribe this book? It's a lot of book.
I'm sorry. I'm a very slow typer. So that was always my thing. I'd be like, ... when I was doing interviews, ... Yeah, I don't need to hear everything. All right. So who was your first person you approached on this? Who was the first person you went to?
The first interview I got, if memory holds correct, was Killer Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the first person I talked to, and I'm a Run the Jewels fan, so it was pretty cool being able to talk to him first of all.
Was he the first because he's the first to approach, or just like you threw out and he just came first?
I want to say that I had some type of friend of a friend who knew him pretty well, and Killer Mike immediately said, "Oh, that sounds dope." Now, other people, it would be like months and months of going back and forth and corresponding, and I get a time. That time would fall through. Like one person, he sent me
names.
I think I'm trying to even remember his name. It was somebody who was like T.I.'s right-hand man, and he answered a DM maybe like 2.5 years after I had asked him to be interviewed for this, saying that he was free now. And I was like, man, time has passed, man. I didn't send this thing yesterday.
I know. The concept of time-space continuum with rappers is they will do papers on that one day about how we used to, back when I was writing more frequently, the joke was tell them the interview is the day after so that they show up on time.
See, I wish I would have known that trick.
Yeah, you just say it's the next day. The interview's on Thursday, and then when they're there on Wednesday, oh, hey, we're perfect. We have great time.
This 500-page book is coming out next week.
I know. Well, I want to also ask you, was there anyone that you wanted that you could not get?
Yeah, just as a hip-hop fan, like I went into this knowing that I wasn't going to get 5 hours with Jay-Z or Nas or that whole Mount Rushmore group. Like a lot of hip hop stars, they really control their stories, right? And they have a right to. So Nas, he did a documentary about Illmatic already, or Jay-Z has written a book, or Rakim has written an autobiography, and that was fine with me. I was proud to talk to people about the impact that those type of people had on their careers, as well as talk to a lot of figures who people may not know who definitely had a large influence over hip hop. So people like Ann Carly or Monica Lynch or Duke Booty, or just a lot of people whose voices I was happy to include.
Aren't you also a sports writer?
I am, Courtney. I am.
So tell me how did because your interests are very, very varied. The first book is an MBA book, but not the typical MBA book. It really focuses on the prep school to the MBA years when kids were doing that. And then you went to The Wire and then hip hop. So it's very interesting that it's so varied. Do you kind of feel a push and pull to go back in between music and sports?
No, this is like my one big ode to music, and now I'll leave that to the professionals.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a interest in hip hop ever since I was young. I feel like it's been a constant companion and a constant ally. I grew up on the West Coast in the mid '90s, the West Coast gangster rap, and Tupac was my goat. And growing up in that, it just always had that impact on me. And as far as like the books and the topics are concerned, I think that whenever you're sitting down to write a book, you need to be passionate about that topic, right? Because it's going to be something that's going to stay with you for 3-4 years, and you're going to want to quit millions of times, and you're going to have that passion to carry you through. So that's why I think these book subjects have been diverse, because they're all subjects that I've been pretty passionate about.
Nice. What'd you learn about The Wire working on that book? I have friends that worked on that show.
Yeah.
Really? They love, and everybody who's worked on The Wire production, still, a lot of them still talk to each other, and it's like a family, and they really they hold it in such a high regard in a time in their lives.
Yeah, there's a mural to Michael K. Williams in my neighborhood. He was not from my neighborhood, but from Brooklyn, obviously. So, The Wire. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I definitely took from it, is how all these years later, it's definitely still a family aspect through all of them. And that book, if writing a book was easy, it was that one, because like the first thing I did was I asked David Simon about it, and I sent him like this long email about what the show meant to me and why I wanted to do this book. And he had like a 3-word reply saying like, yeah, whatever. It was probably the best thing I've ever written. His reply was like, yeah, whatever. So, but once I knew he wasn't going to stand in my way, I was like, oh man, I got the go ahead. And then the other crucial thing was that Alexa Fogel, who is the casting director for that show, and this just amazing woman, she's done Ozark and Atlanta and a bunch of really, really good shows. She saw a lot of belief in the project, and so she was getting me people left and right, because people respond to Alexa's inquiries, because Alexa can get you a job on a show. So when it was time to get Idris, or when it was time to get Dominic West, Alexa was down for it. So, and then the last thing that really stuck out about that book is that Ed Burns is a co-creator of The Wire, right? But he's not as well known as David Simon. But I remember I went to his home, and he was still living in Baltimore at the time. And it was just like I was talking to one of the smartest, wisest people who I've ever sat down and spoke to, where he was like really curmudgeonly guy, but he had all the answers to everything, and you could just see it. It wasn't even an interview. It was just absorbing information, I felt like.
Nice.
He did Homicide too, right? That was him. Homicide: Life on the Street. Ed Burns. Isn't he an ex-cop or something like that?
Yeah, he's an ex-cop, and he's also an ex-middle school teacher. So
same thing.
A lot of The Wire.
I've done both. Yeah, same thing. Very similar. I just want to ask you one more question about The Wire, did you talk to Richard Price at all? Because he's like one of my favorite writers of all time. Did you get a chance to talk with him? Is he
I visited him in New York.
Yeah. Is he great? Good. It makes me happy. I love him. I think he's one of the best, bar none, one of the best American writers. And you could always tell his episodes, they were just so spot on. So Yeah, we could wax about The Wire, like,
I still have my DVD box set of the entire
Me too.
series.
Me too.
I've gotten rid of a lot of that kind of
I
stuff, but
kept it.
I cannot get rid of the
I
Wire
know,
box
I
set.
know.
Just can't
Did
get
you
rid of
guys watch the show in real time, or was it something that?
Yeah, in
it.
real time.
I watched it in real time.
In real time.
Mhm.
Yeah. In fact, at that time, my son was a lot younger, and I had a TV in my room and a TV in the living room, and we would both watch it, and then we would like meet in the hallway. And when Bodie got killed, like we used to call him Froggy, I don't know why, but when Bodie got killed, I heard him go, "No!" And I'm like, "No!" And we met in the hallway. Went, "Bodie's dead! Bodie's dead!" And then we were separated. And the only time I've ever seen him super amped about a celebrity was I know he has a real name, but I can't think of what it was. Lieutenant Daniels was subletting an apartment in my building, and Lucian was like, "Yo, Mom, Lieutenant Daniels lives here." And I'm like, I think he has an actual name, but it's not Lieutenant Daniels, but I know what you mean.
It's
Yeah.
Louis Riddick, right?
Yeah, yeah. Listen, that was appointment. First of all, that was appointment television for me on Sunday nights when The Wire came on. But I also watched The Corner before that, so
Yeah.
I was into that sort of gritty style of Baltimore. You showed it HBO. That was when HBO
Baltimore.
really was. It was a grittier channel, and yeah, The Wire was just great. And those seasons, man, the way they did them. I mean, the season when they went back to from the perspective of the kids, to me.
Oh, well, that's the best. Season 4.
Television.
No,
Top
and I've
notch.
worked in schools. I mean, you talk to any teacher, that season deserved like every award unto itself, because it was just, that was what it was to teach in a city school. That was perfect,
I mean, to me, that's the single most amazing season of television ever made, bar none.
Yeah, it was written well. It was acted really well.
I'm bringing up all the dialogue now. Oh God, I'm getting like all right. All right, a couple things that I've read. I'm going to keep holding this up as if you can see it. I feel like somebody on The Price is Right.
Just imagine a thick-ass book that she's holding up.
I'm holding a really thick book. Hey, with very few pictures, but those are expensive. I know that, to put pictures in, but they're color pictures. They're nice. Look at the pretty picture of Kendrick. All right, so some of the press I've read about this, and some of the it's gotten fantastic reviews, but one of the comments is controversy is that you do talk a lot to Russell Simmons in this, who is sort of, I guess he's coming out of his persona non grata phase, but he definitely was he was definitely non grata for a while, that's for sure. When did you talk to him, and did you feel any sort of, I mean, because obviously he's integral to the story of hip hop, but did you feel any kind of qualms about giving him this much attention, or?
Of course, it was something that me and the publisher definitely wrestled with. I wanted to be honest to the story of hip hop, and this is a story about the growth of hip hop. And if there are no singular main characters, but if there is one, it's probably him and what he did for while he was leading Def Jam and crossing over Run DMC and those groups. And yeah, it was something that we definitely wrestled with, and we acknowledged the allegations that have been made against him in the book. And I mean, I can't say whether it was the right call or not, but I wanted to be true to the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's the unfortunate thing. I mean, whatever he did or did not do, you can't tell the story of hip hop, or certainly you can't tell the story of hip hop without Def Jam, and you can't tell the story of Def Jam without him, basically. So you kind of have to, I would imagine, like, hold your nose and let him talk, Yeah,
and the one of the difficult things about hip hop is those type of allegations come up with a lot of figures, right? It's tough to kind of cycle through and say, should I put in this person but not this person and that person, when you're trying to tell a story of growth and evolution that has a lot of people who have played a part in it.
Who would? I'm sorry, Courtney.
No, I was going to say, listen, the truth is ugly sometimes. And I've said on the show a lot of times, a lot of our heroes and people's heroes are flawed and very flawed people. But when you're telling a story, tell the truth. To me, just stick to the truth and the facts and tell the story.
Who was I always get asked this. I mean, I haven't written. I'll hold up the book again. I haven't written a book, but I did used to interview a lot of rappers. And the question was, who was your favorite person to interview? So, and it's an impossible question to answer. So I'll ask you that question. Who was your favorite person and who was the biggest pain in the ass? Because I can tell you who the two biggest pain in my asses were. But
And who surprised you the most?
Yeah, that's a good too. So who was your
right.
favorite? Who surprised you and who was the biggest pain in the ass?
My favorite person who I talked to for this is probably Kool Moe Dee. And he was a person who he was there at the beginning of hip hop, and then his career has stretched through different generations, and he has a very keen eye on what he's done for hip hop's place in this country. He was vivid on boycotting, or he was one of the guys who didn't boycott I think it was the 1989 Grammys when everybody else in hip hop did, because they didn't show it live on television. So just talking to him and hearing his perspective on hip hop, where it was, where it's been, where it's going, was really key for me. There were a couple of people who I interviewed for this who they weren't into the interview for whatever reasons. I couldn't get just about anything usable out of them, which, is there, right?
It happens.
Yeah. Scarface was one of those interviews where I couldn't get much out of. And it's, a lot of these guys have talked about their lives and their careers so much that I can understand.
Yeah.
And surprising wise, that's a good question. That's something that I haven't really given a lot of thought of, just because whenever I sit down to do an interview, I do a lot of research.
You're very well prepared. So
yeah, I try not to be surprised as much as possible.
Right.
That said, Kanye wasn't somebody who I talked to for this, thank God. So, where an interview like that would have gone.
He's the biggest pain in the ass I've ever interviewed.
Really?
Kanye and Onyx are the two biggest pains in the ass I've ever interviewed in my life.
Fredro Starr? I talked to Fredro for the Wire book, and I don't remember him being bad.
He literally, okay. And then I don't know why people who record things for a living don't understand that they're talking into something that records something, right? So I did the interview, and this is when they were on their comeback. It wasn't even like when they were capital O Onyx, so they should have been. It was for Double XL, and he was shooting some ding-dong video in my neighborhood, and he sees me, and he starts hovering around me, and then he sees my son, he goes, "Oh, Eminem." I'm like, oh, that's original. That's original fairy tale. Call the white kid Eminem. You're a genius. No, he was very irritating. And Kanye, it's legendary at this point. You don't
know how many times I've had friends who are journalists call me after their interview with the latter of the two, just to be like, let me just tell you what just happened.
I think there needs to be there needs to be a support group for people who have spoken to Kanye. And this is back when he was making records that we wanted to listen to.
No, this is back when he was popping with hits that everybody loved universally.
2003 Kanye, okay? It's it was exhausting. I will say one thing, you're talking about the surprising, and it is a great question. There are times when you're sort of like, wow, I didn't know, and we do this with musicians, I think, a lot. It's our own fault. I didn't know this guy or this woman had this many layers to them. Like, there was that much going on. And I think that that's something that maybe the public tends to do that more with rappers, because we do tend to stereotype what they're talking about, who they are, by the persona, and we forget these are human beings. They're moms,
right.
They're dads, they're business people,
Yeah, I'm thinking about that question a little bit more. DMC was another really good interview as far as knowing what he had done and really talking about his influences of the people who had influenced that group, the Cold Crush Brothers and other early groups who probably don't get as much love and recognition as they do. He was just full of names and thoughts and reflections on them.
How many women did you get a chance to talk to in for the book? And did you make a concerted effort to get as many women as possible in the book?
I did. I don't know what the final tally was, but
I'll count. As we're talking, I'll sit there and count.
I know it. I know that I tried to get it as many women as I could. For some reason, women, they didn't respond to the interviews as much as I had hoped, the requests.
That's weird. Why do you think?
And
Do you have any idea why that might be?
I like I said, like a lot of people in hip hop, they want to own their own stories, and that's something that I can certainly understand. But I was, like I said, I was happy to be able to talk to people like Lady B and Monica Lynch and Carly.
Monica's the best. Monica, Tommy Boy always had the best. You're much younger than Courtney and I. You're certainly much younger than me because Courtney's younger than me. But Tommy Boy always had the best merch. Oh my God, they always
They
right.
had really good merch. They
They
really
had
did.
the
Now that
best.
you
Why
mention
I
that.
got rid of half of that stuff, I don't know. But they had the best visual presentation of rap music at the time. They really did. Let me ask you. We've talked about this on the. What do you think about? Full disclosure, I'm on the nominating committee. But what do you think about Eminem getting inducted on the first ballot this year for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
It is interesting. I don't, and I had read his acceptance speech and all the people who he had named, and it seemed like he named everybody in hip hop. I think it's cool that hip hop is being diversified and that the Rock and Roll Museum can recognize hip hop artists and acts now. I think that's definitely cool. First ballot, that's
You're
You know
You're
how I
preaching
feel
to the
about
choir.
this, Amy.
No,
Listen,
yeah.
I'm never not going to say that he did not sell a lot of records and he had influence for people. I was never the biggest fan, but I understand. But for him to get there before a Tribe and they were on the same ballot, I'm
On
like,
the same ballot.
I'm sorry, wait, what?
Yeah, no, you're preaching to the choir because there was a lot of it's always was like he's very deserving, but he needs to wait a minute. He can wait a minute until Tribe or let's go down the list, but especially Tribe, gets
Eminem
in.
ain't going nowhere.
He ain't going nowhere. Well, I mean, no, and we were saying this though. I will give him that he is aware of the fact that people still go, really? First ballot? There wasn't a lot of enthusiasm for it, but he deserves to be there, but not in front of Tribe. Tribe
Definitely.
not.
Yeah,
Did you talk? Yeah, I know. When I get kicked off the committee or quit, I will.
I have a question for you guys, because you guys had mentioned Blondie in your last episode, and what was it like for you, Amy, when Rapture came out?
I like how you asked me because Courtney was in elementary school. Courtney was listening to Barney, but Amy was cashing her checks.
He was like, "Excuse me, old broad. I would just like to know
old white woman. Let me get the old white woman possessed. Well, young man, I'll tell you. Debbie came to me and she goes, Amy, what do you think? And I don't know, Debbie. It's a big risk. The Rapture. Okay, first off, I should preface it by saying I don't remember most of the 80s because I was experimenting at the time with things that make you forget things. I thought it was great. I thought it was great. There was never, I was always a huge Blondie fan. I was always a huge Debbie Harry fan. And it was one of those things where it wasn't even to me, and I'd already heard hip hop. Was it 1981 that song came out? 1980?
It was 80. Mm-hmm.
So I'd already heard rap music. And in New York City, it wasn't a question. There was never any question in New York City whether
I was young, but New York
she
City
deserved to be there. It was not New York.
That song blared out at every radio. I wasn't in the clubs yet in 80.
Yeah.
We danced at every party to it, every black party. Literally, it was on the radio 24/7.
It was never a question. It was never a question with black people whether it deserved to be a hit. It seemed to be more of a question of white people overthinking something because when they.
I think the Blondie fans, because it was so different from the type of music that they made.
Was that before Heart of Glass, that song, or after?
I want to say it is. After, because isn't Heart of Glass like 78, 79?
Heart of Glass is Parallel Lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought, to me there was because when they did the Great Day in Hip Hop photo shoot, my claim to fame is that I said we should invite her, and she came up, and I will tell you that everyone wanted to meet Debbie Harry. You know, they wanted to meet Rakim and they wanted to meet Debbie Harry, and that was it. And Chris Stein wanted to meet Mobb Deep. So their
Well,
cred
the
was
interesting thing, and I think you and I have talked about this, it's like, and now I'm going to say to you, Jonathan, because you're younger than both of us. New York, especially back, like I started going out really young in New York in the 80s. And everybody, especially like downtown, they mixed together. It would be sort of like punk, rock, hip hop, everybody, the way the clubs were and the hangout spots, it was really, the separation seems to have come later. So
Yeah.
all of these people really intersected in the music scene and the downtown scene and the underground scene. It wasn't until much later that everything seemed to just separate all over. Like Rapture was played all over black radio in New York.
Yeah.
BLS.
Frankie
and
Crocker used to play the hell out of
over black
Rapture.
radio. You know what I mean? So it was less separation and more sort of integrated musically and artist wise. So I just remember being young and that being I bought that 45 and just it was everywhere. And that video would play. We used to have a show on New York that came on late night called New York Hot Tracks on channel on ABC, and it was with
Oh my
Carlos
God.
De Jesus used to be there. Remember, that's where we first saw Madonna on TV and all of these different things. And so it just kind of seemed, Rapture just felt like New York. It felt like New York at
did.
that moment. You
And plus
know?
they had done Wild Style at that point too. I mean, you know, so it was never, you know how certain people, you feel like they're trying to be down? You know, it never felt like that with Blondie.
Did you guys go to like clubs like Negril and Roxy?
Oh my God. I've been in the Grill Military. Roxy, I think there is a plaque at the front with me looking over my shoulder.
For the Roxy?
Oh my God.
What were you,
Roxy.
10 when you were going there?
Roxy. Well, which Roxy are we talking
The
about?
roller skating rink Roxy.
Yes, but the Roxy, yes, I started going to Roxy young, but the Roxy didn't close until years later. I was going, please, the Roxy was the shit. I went to the
right, I never
Roxy
went to
all
the Roxy.
through the Victor Calderon tenure, through the Peter Rayhofer tenure.
No, we're talking about different Roxy. We're talking about the hip
and
hop
also,
club.
no.
It turned?
No, remember, the Roxy was roller skating
Right.
and a gay club, and then it became 1018 for a minute. It closed for a minute and it opened back up under the name 1018, and that's when they were doing more hip hop. But roller skating was still during the week, like Wednesdays, I believe. And then it came back and was the Roxy again, and just back to just being a gay
No,
club.
because this was like, all right, so I was supposed to go to the Roxy like several times, like 1981, 1982, and then something would always happen, and I could never get it together to
The
go
Tunnel
there.
became more hip hop.
The Tunnel
Remember
was
the Tunnel
like,
on
yeah.
Sunday nights, because the Tunnel was also when the first open up was more of like a gay club, really downtown hip moment. And then Sunday nights they started a hip hop party, which became a legendary in New York. Sunday nights at the Tunnel.
Jonathan, you were meeting for the first time the only human being in New York City of a certain age who never went to the second danceteria. I only went to the first dance, and yet I still walk the earth and am allowed to be among people. I can talk as though I went there because I knew everybody, and
Danceteria was great.
I never went. I went to the first one, but I
Yep.
never went to the second one.
You also never went to Paradise Garage. I can't
I
believe you never went to the garage.
I know.
cannot
Okay, rub it in.
believe You never went to the garage.
I worked in clubs. That was the thing. I worked in clubs, and so by the
But
time
the people
I
who
get out
worked
of
in
work,
clubs, but y'all always had nights because it was, there was that
Courtney,
New
we
York.
have company. Do I need to go into what was going on in my life back then? We want Jonathan to be our friend. We don't want him to run back and say, and then that loser. It's all better now. It's all really better. I don't remember.
Except you never went to the Paradise Garage.
I know.
You did go to Palladium, right?
I think so. I don't remember.
You say famously we did when I was at Columbia. We did that Fugees.
Sorry, we're totally like
it was the Fugees and Cypress Hill, a concert together.
I went to Mud Club. Do I make up for that? I went to Mud Club.
Went to Mud Club. Mud Club is legendary.
Okay, this interview is over.
Or Peppermint Lounge.
I worked at the Peppermint Lounge. This interview is over.
Right.
Jonathan, is there anything?
We're so sorry.
We're going to go down the list. We're really tired. We're going to go down the list of every club that we haven't gone to, and then you can tell us what clubs we didn't go to in California, and then we'll be on the same page. We'll be like,
I've actually been to clubs in California. Are you Southern California or Northern California?
Southern.
Oh. I used to go to the Catch. The Catch was my spot in LA. I used to go to the Catch. And then I used to go to the El Rey, and we used to see Janet Jackson. Janet would be at the El Rey. Fun times. Fun times.
Nice. Yeah, that's probably a little bit before.
What? Okay, don't you?
All right, rub it in.
This is what we're not going to do.
We are not going to remind us how old we are.
Wait, did you see how he was like, yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, my parents used to go there. Or we're not going to remind you that right now Courtney and I are like 45 minutes away from dinner. Okay. You know that, okay, Keith, your friend Keith, was my boss at BAM 34 years ago.
That is not possible because Keith tells me that he's 27.
He is. His parents were pregnant with him, and he bossed me from the womb. He yelled at me through the womb. The last time I saw Keith, I think I was pregnant with my now almost 34-year-old child. So that's a something. Who were you now as a West Coast person? How long did it take you to realize that the East Coast invented rap music and you guys were just having a moment?
I feel very attacked by that question.
I'm sorry, you're going to bring up our age every 5 seconds, Jonathan.
Because
you know,
that moment lasted about a generation, though.
I know, but I'm going to ignore that part of the argument that makes actual factual sense and just go with the way I'm thinking about it right now. No, but seriously, when did you realize that we invented it and we lent it to you for a while to have?
I don't think there's ever been a doubt, right, that hip hop's roots are in New York. What I love about hip hop is that those roots are planted and then it sprouts elsewhere and the tree grows and extends, and those branches, different people can interpret hip hop and make it their own. So you get the slow down music in Houston, or the gangster rap and G-funk in the West Coast, or the Miami bass coming through in the South. It's all how different people interpret it. So New York wears that crown. It's always going to have that crown, but it's really fascinating to me about how different branches and subgenres develop.
Well, I'm sorry, Joe, but part of it is, honest with you, and we all grew up loving funk. I think for New Yorkers, we don't drive. So it was sort of like, yeah, I had heard that kind of music because I used to live in San Francisco. So I was around lowrider, but we don't drive, and we don't drink syrup. I'm not being sarcastic here. It was just the sort of thing, if that's your world, then that's going to be what influences your world. So, it makes complete sense. We don't drink
syrup, girl.
Cough syrup.
I know what syrup is. That's a mess. Anyway, listen, what I love is that you're giving representation to all the different genres, because there were people, I'm sure, in those regions being influenced in making music. And, it wasn't until a lot later on that you had the LA explosion. I think people really think of sort of like the LA explosion and the Atlanta explosion, but you're giving light to all of the different regions that have artists who've done really well regionally, do shows, do tours, put out records. And it's great that you put it all in one place for people to be able to kind of go and it's a good read. And I feel like Amy is going to
hold the book up again. Just a real quick, and then we'll take you out. Do you like the Knicks?
Do I like the Knicks? I used to live in New York and cover the Knicks when I was writing for the New York Times, and they were never boring. They didn't win a lot of games, but they were never boring. And I feel like
Can we use that as the poll? Can we use that for the poll quote? Never boring. The next. And who you like these days in hip hop? I mean, this is a great, as Courtney says, a great summary and overview and homage. But who are you kind of checking for these days?
Should I say Drake just to troll you guys?
Yeah, okay. We can, we have a mute button, Jonathan.
Kendrick Lamar, he's probably my favorite right now.
Have you seen him perform?
Yeah, he was in Charlotte this summer. Okay. Charlotte is where I live.
Oh, okay.
I heard that tour was amazing. I heard the show was it was top notch, stellar stuff.
Yeah,
it is.
He's someone. Yeah, I've always heard his live shows are fantastic. I mean, because he puts on a show. You know what I mean? Like he's aware of the dynamics of performing. You know, he's very theatrical. So
but
Kendrick,
as far as a lot of guys who are making their names today, I'll be honest, it's a little bit tough, and not to sound like I'm way past my prime, but
we're with you.
If it's a choice between me listening to Lil Uzi Vert or going back and listening to a Nas, Tupac, or Biggie, I'm taking it back a couple decades.
Yeah, it's hard to get all the Lils. I get all my Lils confused, and it's a lot of sort of. I mean, bless their hearts, some of it's great. It's not for us.
My only problem is, I'm like, why do you all want to sound alike? Like,
they all sound
the ones
alike.
who really want to break out, yes, you can make a lot of money right now. I'm going to say this, I've said it a million times about the music industry. You can have a song and make a whole bunch of money that you think will never end. It will end. Do you want to have a long career? Like, when I hear all of these records, and I kind of have to be like, well, who is this? Because this sounds like this one, who sounds like this one. If you don't stand out, it's like, it's going to be a short shelf life. Because that trend becomes over. Like, you're already starting to see it, right? I think we always have cycles, especially in the US at radio and pop. You notice where it'll be rap, then that comes in, then it's going to be pop, and then it's going to be rock band moment. And I can kind of see the trickle effect of other genres starting to push up into that top 10 and stay there and live there a little longer. So, like, you need to stand out. Like, have something to say. Party records are great. You can make a whole bunch of party records. But ultimately, I want to hear a voice that I really, really... It's why I like Vince Staples. Vince Staples doesn't sound like... He sounds like Vince Staples.
Right.
When I hear him...
And we also like cohesive... We're big fans of cohesive records. That's why we love the Nas... The last two, and I'm really excited about what King's Disease 3 is going to sound like. Cohesive. Are you a drill fan at all?
No, not really.
See, I like it.
Let me ask you guys this, because I remember at the beginning of the episode, you guys were talking about Drake's House album and how that lasted for like a minute and a half, and that got me into thinking, what can artists do today to make music that actually lasts, that doesn't have that short time span of like
there's no marketing anymore. There's no, you think about the ones who last are the ones who are out there. They have a real marketing plan, right? It's so different now that everything just gets thrown up on all of these streaming platforms because now it lives there forever. As before, when everything was sales-based, like I was a product manager. It's like you had to put together a marketing plan that had phases. There's going to be phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Pull everything together and create a whole world, and you go out there and promote and you try to execute it to the best of your ability. I don't think people have marketing plans the same way anymore. I think a lot of artists come with creative directors, right? So now it's about, I have this creative director who's helping me with my photo shoots and my videos, and this is how I'm presenting, and this is how I'm helping, here's how I'm presenting on TikTok. But that's not really a marketing plan to keep the music going. It's almost like they're hoping to have a viral moment on TikTok, and then your song can become a hit.
Well, the music is almost secondary. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, part of it is, especially with, I mean, again, we're not the demo, but we still listen to music, is that it's the expediency of everything right now. People don't care if you have a career. It's like Courtney was saying, they care if you have a moment where everybody's going for a moment. They want to go viral. They don't care if they have a legacy or, that's why... Thank God you still have artists like Nas putting out records in terms of hip hop because his records are great. Are they going to have a TikTok moment? No. But you know what I mean? I don't think a lot of these artists today are interested in being substantive because it's a generation that's not interested in
I also see a shift.
Right? I mean,
and I don't know if you guys see this. I see a shift in a changing of the guard of who were the big artists, the grand ones who came and automatically were the superstars. There are some that went into the from the 90s, early 2000s, who are still big names today, but they don't resonate with those younger fans the same way. And we're seeing new sets of younger people coming in who are resonating in that way. So it's hit or miss, right? You look at a Taylor Swift who's doing great. Second week at #1 around the world. She's had a full marketing plan for this album when it was coming, with the lyrics, billboards around, the TikToks dropping hints, announces a tour, and that, you know, she's got hit records, and they keep coming. And also hit records. I know everybody tries to act like it doesn't matter if you have a hit. Hit records still count. They do. You have a hit record. These days, with everything being so streaming based, it absolutely does help keep your record going. You know, there's so many people we all love and some artists we all love, and you see them out there and it's like a struggle to get attention, right? But they don't have a hit. I feel the same way about Normani. I look at Normani thinking, why don't you have a hit? Like, people have wanted you to have a hit ever since you've left Fifth Harmony. And it's like, you can have some okay songs, but you need that hit to establish yourself as a solo artist, and that helps keeping everything going. Because otherwise, if you have something that's just okay, people will listen to it, and they go on. You're walking around with a full computer in your pocket. You're being suggested. There's a list that you get with suggestions, and you move on, and you don't go back because there's nothing to pull you back. It's like some videos now, right? If you don't give people even the videos that come off and are pretty spectacular, it's not like before where we sat in front of MTV and BET and VH1 or The Box and watched them over and over again. You're gonna watch it on your phone. How many times do you go back to it?
But also, to get to your point, I mean, which is why our hatred of Drake aside, you have to, he's one of the few who has managed to sustain a career in rap years. He's a catalog artist at this point, because he still manages to make himself relevant, whether it's for good or for bad. Teenage kids, I used to teach high school, they love him. Still, even though he's like, how old is Drake now? Firmly in his 40s, right?
No, he's in his 30s. He's not in his 40s.
Drake?
Yeah, I don't think he's in his 40s.
Like real 30s or Canadian 30s?
No, real 30s. No, but
he's probably what, like 35?
Yeah.
Is he that young? Seriously?
Yes, he is. But see, that's the thing. That's the changing of the guard that we witnessed. And it may not be our music where we're like, I don't get it. But for our ears,
no, it's fine. But I do like the beats of drill, and I like grime. Courtney and I are big grime fans, too. We don't know what they're talking about, but that doesn't matter.
He just turned 36.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. He's not aging well.
Oops.
There, I said, well, he's not.
I think there's some women who would disagree with you, who think
he looks like he has fetal alcohol syndrome.
Okay,
attractive, all right. Sorry.
And on that note, thank you so much, Jonathan, for coming by this shit show of
I don't
fuckery.
like him. Do you get that? I don't like him, Jonathan.
You guys, thank you so much. This was great. I appreciate it, Amy and Courtney.
All right,
yeah.
Jonathan, tell everybody the title of all three of your books right now, and they can order them right now.
We have Boys Among Men. We have All the Pieces Matter, Oral History of the Wire. And we have the latest to come up in oral history on the rise of hip hop.
Holding
Boom.
it up again. I'm holding
there
it up.
you go, kids. And you know what it is.
Give us the links we'll post all the links to your books.
Yeah, we'll post all the links to your books and put them out. Thank you, everybody. You know what it is. It's I'ma Let You Finish. It's show number 118. We're on the Pantheon Podcast Network. Tell a friend, yell at a friend, leave a rating, leave a star, do all of the things you do, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. Go vote.
It's NFL draft season, and that means it's time to start thinking about fantasy football. FantasyPoints.com features industry-leading experts and prognosticators using proprietary hand-charted data to help you score more fantasy points. FantasyPoints.com is the place to go for whatever kind of fantasy football you play. Whether you play fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, or do a little bit of everything, Fantasy Points has the meticulously researched content to guide you to victory. And why wait for the fall? Fantasy Points also covers the new spring football league, the UFL. Join the guru, John Hansen, Scott Barrett, Joe Dolan, and other massive names in the fantasy football universe with an exclusive offer. Use code Pantheon for 15% off any Fantasy Points package, including the all-in package, with access to every article, tool, and data nugget that Fantasy Points has to offer. That's FantasyPoints.com and code Pantheon for 15% off at Fantasy Points. FantasyPoints.com, code Pantheon. Score more fantasy points.